Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the No Faces Comic Chat. I'm your host, Bub of BUB'S Comics, and with me, as always, the veteran, the guy that look, if you had one person you could call as your lifeline, your phone a friend, and it's a comic question, I ask, who are you going to call? You're calling Roger, a.k.a. Metarog. Welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for that. Wow. I mean, a little bit of hyperbole there, but, I appreciate the sentiment. However, if the comic was published in the last 20 years, call somebody else.
Oh, wow. Well, I guess that guy we're calling is going to be DS Comics, at least for the value of it, probably.
Yeah, what's up, guys?
Well, it's shaking side of bacon.
Not much.
Well, that's good. We don't want things shaking too loose. You might get hurt. In them there Chatterooski, we got Las Cruces in the house here early, part of the Tailgaters Club. Jambo Comics saying, hello, gang. Area 51, Mike is in the house as well. And let's see, La Cruces either stayed or came back, but we're glad to have him. Metarog can't shake that guy. He's like a bad rash, man. Ben Compton saying, what's up, everybody? Good to have you. From Heroes to Icons. That's Cookie, isn't it?
No, that's Jason.
That's Jason. Which one's Cookie?
That's Downright Nerdy Podcast.
That's right. Their symbols are similar to me. Probably because I'm half blind. Slim's Comics in the house. And James Gallegos. Welcome, 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 welcome. Everybody's here except for the people that haven't made it yet. William Smallwood's in the house as well. That's the same as Bill Smallwood, isn't it?
Probably.
Thanks, Roger. Jackson Roy Kirk's in the house also. He's always happy to come before Bill of Comic Mag Musings. So that's that's as long as he's here to drop early shade, he's always happy. Look, yes, he says. Good deal.
Right there.
I tell you, like a broke clock, right? I'm right twice a day. All right. So what are we going to be talking? Does anyone remember the team name tonight? We're going to go with let's see, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. DS Comics. What's our team name?
Well,
Roger, what's our team name?
Second Fiddle Sidekicks.
That's right.
All right.
That's completely wrong. DS.
No, it's the backup helpers.
Yes, it's blue-haired buddies. No, it's
Sidekicks.
Yeah, it's a psycho sidekick. You guys suck. It's the
helpers.
I can't remember what it is.
The totality, right?
Hold on, let me check. I know it's here somewhere.
All I remember about it is I didn't have any comics, as usual, that met the category requirements. So,
what? Are you serious?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe I do.
We're going to dig through. We're probably going to rely heavily on Roger this evening because I have a hot take on this, but we'll let that be. The secondhand sidekicks. That's it. Thanks, Mike. All right, that was a close one, everybody. I got to tell you,
I was pretty close.
Yeah,
I would have gave you credit, Roger.
Thank you.
Listen, he's very specific in his words. He would have given you credit. I don't think he'd have given me credit or very many others, but he'd have given you credit.
Well, that's all supposition on your part, Bub. That's all supposition. You don't know.
Yes, welcome to the Supposition Sidekicks here on the No Faces Comic Chat with my co-hosts, DS and Roger. Well, we're glad to have you. This is going to be big fun tonight, if not short fun or long fun. I don't know. It's going to be fun, though. We got 10 people watching. We got 2 Rogers in the house, and we're going to get moving on. Sidekicks, DS says he has a parade of these, and he can't wait to show them.
Well, I have none, and I do have some thoughts on it, though, but I don't have any to show. So, as usual, I am just going to show some cool comics. Every 10 minutes, I'll switch this out, put another cool one up. It's the best I can do. And then I can offer my opinions, which I have no shortage of, as you know, and we'll go from there. But for the concrete evidence and art for Sidekicks, it's got to be you guys because I don't have any.
All right, that's fair enough.
Well, can we like set the ground rules here? Can we ask what is a sidekick?
Yes. Okay. So Roger wants to take this all the way back. Just grind down the gears all the way back to what is a sidekick? Well, if I'm the one that's supposed to be answering that, then I'm going to say a sidekick is a member of a team, right? Mm-hmm. Usually a duo. Okay. But I don't suppose that it's necessary for it to be a duo. Right. But it's a member of a team who is basically a supplicant, right? Mm-hmm. So, it doesn't have to be a specific hierarchy or ranking, but it is obvious to everyone, including all members on the team, that this person is learning or is not as skilled as the main members or is sort of in a backup capacity. Or, that's where I'm at. What do you think about that?
Well, what do you think, Diaz?
Yeah, I think sidekick means, I don't think it has to be just a duo, but I think most of them are. But I definitely think in order to be a sidekick, it has to be of lesser importance and power, and they can't be equal in stature to be a sidekick. I feel like one has to be more dominant in the situation than the other.
Okay, I agree. And that's why I wanted to make sure that we're on the same page, because there are some team ups that are duos but are not necessarily sidekicks because they're peers, right?
Right.
And like Power Man and Iron Fist, for example, right? I don't consider that a sidekick relationship. They're peers. But
I would agree, although one of them is better than the other, but that's all I'm going to say about that.
Wow, they're different, but they're not necessarily one. Like you said, using your definition, there was one there has to be one that is somewhat maybe not subservient, but is a lesser of the two in some regard. Like a lot of the relationships we're going to talk about today are going to be the older and the younger person in the relationship. Like Bucky and Captain America, for example. That's classic example. Batman and Robin, very classic. But there are some gray areas in there as well, which
I had two in mind that are gray areas for me, and it might be because I'm right, and it might be because I don't have enough knowledge about it. So you guys can add to those when I bring them up, and we'll see what the consensus is.
Okay, sounds good.
We have to address the elephant in the room, and of course that elephant, at least by smell alone, is Jackson Roy Kirk. Saying, weird scenario here where host BUB'S is a sidekick to DS and Metarog.
Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, Bub. It's one of those situations where the sidekick situation is not merely a duo, as you can see.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. To me, that's like saying a producer of a record has nothing to do with it, and they're all below the musicians. I don't know about that. That's a tough one.
Who was Nirvana? Who produced Nirvana's Nevermind?
I did.
See, you don't know. Nobody does. We just.
This is my second greatest performance here. Yeah, that's a tough one. I'll have to think on that, because I did purposefully seek out two comic minds that I felt had overall, at least in specific areas, more knowledge than I had. So I wouldn't be totally opposed to agreeing with that, except for the fact that after I got them on the show, I realized I was mistaken. So anyway. All right. Well, here's my hot take on some sidekicks, and that's that I don't like them. And not only do I not like them, I pretty much can't stand them. And just about the only sidekick I've ever been able to take has been Robin, and it's mostly because of the backstory that he was a ward of Batman. I like that situation of basically you got to let him fight with you, but then at all times he's basically a kid and you have to protect him. And then once he goes on to be like Nightwing or whatever, then they're no longer sidekicks, really. And then they kind of graduate to being their own superheroes, and in some cases taking the mantle of their predecessor. So, but I don't like them. To me, a sidekick is just a lazy way of always having a damsel in distress in every situation. So that's my feeling, without having all the fun parts of having a damsel in distress. So not distress, but debt dress.
Yeah, right. Well, besides the obvious issue with that relationship there is that you're saying he was supposed to protect them, yet he's taking him into dangerous situations and child endangerment. But that's a whole nother issue that we're not going to discuss tonight, right?
Yeah, but that's not fair to say that, Roger, because sometimes you have to do what you got to do, and then you know what you have to do in that situation. For instance, your child or your baby or something may need a bath, and it's your responsibility to bathe them, but you still got to dunk them in a bucket of water before you can start, right? At least that's what I used to do.
Wow, that I don't think that analogy, forgive the pun, holds water.
Oh no, it's falling apart early, everybody. Roger's declared it's pun 30.
But I don't like them if they're gratuitous. But I do think that you have to remember that initially, when the first kind of sidekicks like Batman, like Robin and Bucky, remember that comics were bought mostly by kids, so they had somebody to relate to and they had somebody to look up to. And in that case, you got a bifurcated kind of concept in a comic that appealed to almost every kid of the era. And that's why I think they were prevalent back then, and they sort of continued into the Silver and Bronze Age.
All right, so let me ask you this. Do you like sidekicks now?
I don't like them gratuitous like that, right? But I do believe that sometimes there are situations where you can use them and they can be effective plot devices.
Sure.
But,
so when you were a kid, did you like sidekicks?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And you identified with them?
At some fantastical level, yes.
Okay, so you're part of the problem. What about you, DS?
Look, I like sidekicks if they are very crucial to the, what are we calling the non-sidekick? The hero, I guess.
We'll call him the hero. Right, so I don't really think of too many evil sidekicks, kind of like a Harley Quinn type thing. But, how about just the main character,
Yeah, so if the sidekick is contributing in large part to like the history or the character or the stories, it's sort of like his or her life's not complete without the sidekick in the realm of comics, then I'm cool with it. I think it's good. Like, classic example, obviously Batman and Robin. You usually just say Batman and Robin, and it's because Robin is so integral to the history of Batman, the fictional history of the character, that I think that's a good sidekick. Yeah, I think it's cool. And it's sort of like Robin is his understudy, his protege. There's a relationship there that the sidekick is. It's a good relationship in the comics for that kind of sidekick. But just a gratuitous one, just for the sake of having a sidekick in there, or just to have somebody to rescue all the time, like Bucky. Yeah, I'm not as big a fan as Bucky as I am of Robin. I think Robin's the best sidekick ever. I know that's sort of anticlimactic to say that, but yeah, I like the Robin sidekick. It's substantively important to the history of Batman. But the gratuitous ones, I'm with Roger. They're no good.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, look at this. Comic Mag Musings woke up from his mid-afternoon nap, and he must have been sleeping on his wallet earlier in the show, but now he's back. Look at him. You're really too good to us. We'll give you the and now that they've fixed, look, we get more Monty for the viewing. So there's now he gave an odd number, $3. I don't quite know what to do with that. But oh wait, I think we do have a half in here somewhere, don't we? Yep. There's your half. The total of 3 for you there, Bill. Glad to have you. Thanks for spreading the love. Keeping the lights on, keeping the glare on. over at the No Faces Comic Chat Showcase channel here. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Yeah, and there's good suggestions coming in from the chat. Like I saw Alfred, and then Jambo was it Jambo? Yeah, just suggested Catman and Kitten. I don't really consider that a sidekick. It's sort of a male-female team up. They have a lot of those, and yeah, I know one character might be more popular than the other, but I don't see Catman and Kitten as much of a sidekick relationship as like a Batman and Robin or a Torch and Toro type thing. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I'm getting a private message from Bill. He is upset we didn't recognize his joke. But I don't read Shang-Chi, so I don't understand it.
Oh my god. Well, go back and watch the retrospective that Bill and I did some months back, and you'll get the joke.
I had a hard time making it through the intro on that one, Roger. I got to tell
you. Yeah. But no, that's a good question. So I mean, a good kind of a concept to talk about, right? What is a sidekick, right? So I have Moon Knight here, and he has a helicopter pilot named Frenchie. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So is that a sidekick or is that a peer partnership?
Well, I look at that, and DS, jump in here whenever we're willing. I'll take you off mute. But to me, I look at it like the Shadow, right? So the Shadow had all these people that were in his network, right?
Right.
His underground network of people that helped him out. I don't see that. I don't see any of them as sidekicks. I see them as network support, you know, just like when I think of, what was the girl in the chair? Oracle. So when I think of Oracle for Batman, I don't see her as a sidekick either. You know, she's the girl in the chair, or as you hear sometimes, you know, the guy in the chair, someone running tech in the background. Alfred, I don't see as a sidekick. Right. Now, does he participate in some missions from time to time? Yes.
I don't know. I mean, Alfred is sidekick-ish. I think the problem there, and it's really tough to recognize him as a sidekick because he's older than Batman. For some reason, sidekicks should be the same age or younger, it seems like. And it doesn't feel right calling Alfred a sidekick, but yeah, why isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. I never thought of him as a sidekick. I always thought him as support staff because to me, a sidekick means that they have some kind of common goal that they accomplish together in projects. And really, Alfred, except for maybe, you know, way back when he would sort of patch him up and all this stuff, that's more support to me. You know, Robin is more the, you know, I think, you know, the iconic sidekick, right? That, like you said, he's younger, he's learning, he's eventually he graduated to a solo career. But Alfred has always been in that role and never really gone out of it.
Yeah, I guess Alfred doesn't typically go out on missions. So it says going out on the mission.
But sometimes he does. And Connie's making a good point here that sidekicks help to move the story along. Without someone to talk to, the story can be boring. That's true. Although, you know, as someone else had mentioned, Spider-Man, there's a good one. No sidekick there to speak of in you know, normal running continuity, and yet he talks his head off.
Yeah, so, he talks to himself all the time.
Yeah, so I don't know that you necessarily have to have someone to talk to, but it definitely does help with a lot of plot movement. That's for sure. Kato is being brought up a lot. I agree. Tonto.
Yeah,
that's one of those sidekicks where he is almost equal. You know, that's a tough one. Yeah. You know, and Kato in a lot of ways
was better in many senses.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one.
Yeah. But the way it was presented was, you know, Green Hornet was the head of the team or the partnership, and Kato would sort of take orders from him, not the other way around.
Right, and that's what I think it has to be. That relationship has to exist and be known and not be a point of contention either. That just has to be the way it is, you know, at least in general. Now, every now and then, Robin start bucking up and fuss and complain. I mean, it's not like they're not human or can't argue, but right. I think that in general, there's always someone who's in control and someone who's more or less taking direction.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with that. That's a good. I think that's a good kind of the way that you can define versus a partnership where they get to put their heads together and come up with a plan to get. Although Robin did do that, but more obviously Batman was super intelligent, so it was hard for Robin to trump anything Bruce Wayne wanted to do. But I think that's a good starting point for sure for a sidekick definition.
Look, and then you have somebody, where is it? Surf Blue says Barney and Andy Griffith. That's more like an anti-sidekick. That to me is like comic relief bumbling that messes things up. Like you don't want him to show up. Like there's lots of times where Batman was in a situation and you wanted Robin to show up and help him. But anytime Barney Fife showed up, it only got worse.
I don't know. In the Golden Age, the sidekicks often were the reason for trouble and the traps that were sprung, like Kid Terror and Toro and Bucky. Not as much Toro. Bucky definitely, though. They would get into predicaments and fall for things, and then the hero would have to go in. That happened a lot in the Golden Age stuff. So, I don't know. I think, they're still learning. I certainly don't think sidekicks are as powerful as the heroes or as wise or as experienced. And often that's the basis for a lot of storylines.
Yeah. What about Human Torch and Toro? They had identical power sets.
Yep. Well, I'm not an expert on those, but Toro would tear stuff up just as well as the Torch. So, yeah. I don't know if they had identical levels of power, but they had the same abilities, and they both it was like a team up, but sort of Torch took the lead. Probably lights in here to go into a little more detail about that, but Toro was never really in that much trouble that needed to be saved, unlike Bucky.
He could flame on and get out of it. But didn't
Kid Terror get in a ton of trouble? I mean, Robin's gotten in more trouble than Kid Terror. He was usually right there helping along with Black Terror.
Yeah, Kid Terror was actually a great fighter alongside Black Terror. Yeah, and didn't Toro used to call Torch Pappy or something like that? Sort of.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe I'm misremembering that. Somebody in the chat will probably let me know. What about like Wonder Woman and Etta Candy? Would that be like a sidekick?
Oh, back in the day?
Mm-hmm.
I put her more in the Barney Fife category.
Right. That's what I was thinking as well. Yeah.
Because she was just a pain in the ass.
Yeah. She rarely helped out. Yeah.
No. She did need to be saved often, though.
Oh, yes.
Didn't She-Hulk have a little friend during the John Byrne run, too?
Yeah, Blonde Phantom, which was Wheezy.
Wheezy, right. Wheezy.
Yeah. Wheezy. Yeah. I put up here Superman and Jimmy Olsen.
That was what I was going to bring up in the gray area.
Quit pandering. All right, here we go.
Yeah, Jimmy Olsen was in my gray area, so yeah, let's hear it.
Well, this is one which I agree, DS. This is I've gone back and forth.
Me too.
Whether this is a sidekick or is it really just some kind of more distant partnership? Because I mean, he did help out in many regards with investigations and things like that, but I don't think I would elevate him to sidekick level because he just can't keep up with Superman.
Yeah, the thing about him. All right, so let me make the argument that he is a sidekick. He did have powers. I'll explain that more fully in a second. But number one, I think he had like a watch or something that he could use to signal Superman, and only Superman could hear it.
Yes.
So he was definitely on the job sort of with Superman. He could call Superman instantly with like his supersonic watch or whatever he had. And he has on numerous occasions, through usually accidents or whatever, taken on certain powers. He's had a number of different powers bestowed on him and gotten involved in the action, so to speak.
Oh, yes.
And it's happened, if you look it up, I mean, it's probably 20, 30 times. I mean, it's all the time in the Silver Age. I feel like he always was getting some weird power from some accidental thing bestowed on him, and then he was part of the action, and he had a super close relationship with Superman. I don't know. I think you could argue that he was at least a part-time sidekick, maybe not all the time, but certainly in some stories he was in the action and had some weird power or something, and he was able to.
He was also a Elastic Lad for a while in the Legion era. But he would help the Legion every once in a while with that. He would drink this potion and become kind of like elongated man or plastic.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. I think one time he had the power.
It's called tequila, Roger.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't know. Never had it.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But yeah, then the rest of the time, I mean, he's definitely like support staff level and friend level.
Yeah.
So I think he could switch back and forth depending on the story that's going on. But yeah, interesting one to have in the discussion for sure.
Yeah, I brought it out because I wanted to see what you guys thought. I still wouldn't put him at the sidekick level, but you're right. There's a lot of gray area, and maybe a given plot point or issue or run, he could be considered that.
Yeah, and I bet you if you could find a list of the times that he's been transformed into some weird thing or something, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
I still kind of find him to be on the support network side of things myself. I think in a lot of the comics, for instance, Alfred has worn the bat suit before and is certainly driven the Batmobile and driven the personal cars pickup, Bruce Wayne when he needed to, or Batman, or help out in multiple situations, but he's still support. And in some storylines, he even had his own abilities and fighting abilities and trainings and things of that nature. But, it's still just support network. And then every now and then they get called into service on the hero side of things. But they're really mostly or villains, right? Because you had Jimmy Olsen being a villain several times too. So not just to help, but as a villain. So I think that happens too. But overall, I put him in support category.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I'd say overall, if you tied me down and threatened me, that's what I would say. But there are points in time where he was a sidekick.
DS probably has a comic where that happens. You have a comic where people get tied down and threatened. Oh, look, there's one.
There are a few comments here. I don't know if you've been reading these guys, but
no, I'm sorry. We don't read any. We want to read Graders' notes. That's all we read.
James Gallego says Rick Jones was the ultimate sidekick, and I agree. That's why I put him here. He was a sidekick to at least 4 heroes: Hulk, Captain Marvel, Captain America, and Rom.
Good grief!
Oh wow, I didn't know all that.
Yeah, so maybe there's more that I'm missing, but those are the ones I remember, right? So yeah, I mean that he was a professional sidekick, for lack of a better term. I think he started with the Hulk, then he went to Captain America, then Captain Marvel, and then much later on Rom. So I just thought that was funny.
Yeah, the Silver Surfer Galactus is interesting. It makes me think of Captain America and Nick Fury, where one is sort of in charge on an organizational level, and the other one is given missions to accomplish. That's not like meat and potatoes sidekick. More like they're in the employ of the higher up, sort of like Galactus or Nick Fury would be. So yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting one though. Hard to say Silver Surfer was a sidekick though, because he's carrying out stuff on his own and he's super powerful.
Well, he really wasn't there voluntarily per se. I mean, he was voluntarily, but he was. I mean, he had a very difficult decision to make.
Yeah.
He wouldn't become a sidekick unless it was to save his planet. So
right.
I find that kind of coercion a different dynamic than a sidekick relationship.
All right, so let's talk about this. We've talked about basically all the ways that a sidekick helps, right? But I think maybe another thing that maybe defines what a sidekick is versus a hero is that the sidekick probably can't operate on his own for very long. Like at some point, quickly, he or she needs the help of the main person, the hero or the villain, whatever it may be. I don't think that they're able to follow along. Like they might start on the right path or stumble onto the right path, but ultimately it's difficult for them to complete a mission without the hero, which actually often a lot of these sidekicks just disappear for a while, and those heroes don't seem to miss them at all.
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever read a solo Batman story where he ever once, even in a thought bubble, said, "I wish Robin were here right now." Like, I don't think I've ever seen that.
Point. That's a very good point.
So,
Very good point. Excellent point.
and that's just like you're talking about Silver Surfer. Well, he may have been, underneath Galactus, but he certainly was capable of managing himself at all times, and for as long as he could be left alone, he'd be fine.
Yeah, he's pretty much a loner.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Well, he would have to be because of what he does and where his sphere of his arenas are.
Well, and another one that Bub brought up, or one of the characteristics where they can't operate on their own. I've heard Falcon referred to as a sidekick, at least initially, of Captain America. And to me, Falcon does not strike me as sidekick. But I think, if there was such a thing, the official comic book designation early on was that Falcon was a sidekick for Captain America.
Mhm.
But he almost instantly came into his own, and so I don't know what you guys think about that. And I'm not really up on the history of Falcon other than just some of the mere basics. But I think he was considered a sidekick initially, certainly probably not now.
I never really considered him a sidekick. I think they were pretty close to peers. I mean, he was obviously nobody has the experience that Captain America did. But maybe very early on, I have to reread those Silver Age stories. He was, at first he was kind of like under his tutelage.
Yeah.
But he went on many adventures by himself, and he acquitted himself quite well. So
yeah, right.
That's I would say maybe right at the beginning you could say that was a sidekick, but certainly after the a couple of years, I would say that was a partnership, equal peer partnership.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I heard or I had this impression that early on he's Captain America's sidekick. I don't even know if I fully believe that were I to go back and become very much more.
Yeah, I like this. Look, Bad Dad's jumping in here. He's saying, was Wasp a sidekick of Ant-Man? And I think that that's very similar to the Falcon and Captain America. There's a different power level that's occurring, but I don't think that the difference in abilities or power level is necessarily what creates the sidekick. I think it has to have a little bit more than that. There has to be, a definite leadership role being taken, not just a power difference.
Yeah, agreed. Sometimes,
although I don't remember ever reading a Wasp story.
There are, but they're few and far between. And really, that very quickly turned into an amorous relationship. So it's hard to qualify it as a sidekick relationship when that really never. I don't know how else. It's something that's ineffable, but it's not. I've never considered it that because it was always a very close amorous relationship. She was always starry-eyed about him, that kind of thing, like crush.
Well, whether the Wasp is effable or not will be another episode, possibly in 2 weeks from now.
We have to add that to the super chat.
I don't think we're ever going to see a comic title named The Effable Wasp.
You can add an Effable Wasp into the super chat images there. We can throw that in.
We need to work on that.
So,
I don't know. Wasp is certainly, like, power level wise, not sidekick. No. But yeah, in the stories, it's always like an Ant-Man story with Wasp. She's had a couple of her own. They go pretty far back into Bronze Age, but I don't know. She seems like a sidekick until you really think about it, and then she can hold her own, and she has. But
yes.
When she's with Ant-Man, it's always in sidekick sort of situations almost. But yeah, I wouldn't say she's a sidekick.
I agree, though.
On occasion.
You're not going to see her on her own very often, and that is kind of a trademark of a sidekick, or at least a secondary character. You don't have to be. I don't know. I assume that there are Aquaman books, right?
Yeah. Really?
I don't know that anyone reads. Oh, look, there's one. Look, we've got an Aquaman sighting.
Yeah,
All right, well, is that Aqualad you're trying to show us?
That's Aqualad, right? That's Aqualad.
I thought he was on SpongeBob.
No, Surf Blue brought him up. Aqualad, and this is somewhat relatable to the Batman and Robin analogy, because you have a similar power set. I mean, Batman and Robin don't have superpowers, but they use gimmicks and things like that. So they have similar power sets, but he is a way less experienced. I don't think, I'm not sure if he can control undersea life or not. I don't recall. But their relationship is very much like a mentor and mentee, I guess.
Bad Dad's bringing up another point I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
What about when the sidekick transitions to a main character? And before we get to that, because I do want to talk about that. So that's on deck. Okay. But I also wanted to talk to what happens often before that, which is when sidekicks form teams of their own.
Teen Titans is a perfect analogy to that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you got Teen Titans here. Oh, DS is showing as Young Avengers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's apropos to the discussion, although I know nothing about it except the GPA price data for a 9.8 white pages, which I have for sale.
Sorry.
Good to know.
But yeah, I really don't know anything about these characters, so I don't know. But they're, I don't know. It seems like a group of youngsters.
Yeah. Look, Beaver and Red Rider. Yeah, I don't know. Well, Little Beaver and Red Rider.
I don't know if I mean, obviously that's too modern for me to really know. I don't know if they were ever sidekicks though. They might have been proteges or something like that. But I don't.
I thought they were kids. I thought they were the generations.
Spring. Yeah, exactly.
Wait, we're not talking. We're talking about Young Avengers.
Right.
Yeah, I was just clarifying because I had the Jambo comment about the Little Red and the Beaver Rider, and I didn't want that to be confused.
Little Beaver and Red Rider. Yeah, he's digging deep into the golden age there.
Yeah, too deep. I'm out.
Yeah, I think a lot of sidekicks come into their own and grow into main characters. And then I was able to come up with one, arguably, that it was a main character that grew down into being a sidekick.
Tarzan.
No, although maybe, I don't know.
Well, didn't he later in life become just a second banana?
There you go.
Jeez.
So this one is iffy, but Groot initially was his own character. He was a main character and a villain and a monster in a single issue of Tales to Astonish. Yeah. And then later on, he sort of became a sidekick to Rocket Raccoon. I'm not a huge Guardians of the Galaxy historian, so most of my knowledge is based on the movies for that group, honestly. So just from the MCU standpoint, I don't know how much that mirrors the comics. I never really was into Guardians of the Galaxy. But Groot seems like a sidekick of Rocket, and then they're both of them together join the Guardians. But even within the Guardians, those two still maintain that sort of hero-sidekick relationship in the movies, at least. I don't know. That's an interesting one, too.
I wonder if, I as you don't know, look, grown. I'm sure that was for your comments about Groot, not about bad jokes.
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't know enough about the history of that, but I think that definitely has happened. Can we think of another example where someone got kind of downgraded? I mean, we see upgrades all the time, right? Bucky becomes Winter Soldier, and you got Nightwing, and you got there is quite a list. Or even, and those are all transitions, right? Those are all where the character literally became a different character, or took on a different name at least. But then you got ones like Harley Quinn, right? She's easily a sidekick to the Joker, and then she takes on a life of her own, and she's her own, villain. Or hero, depending whatever they wanted to do. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right. It's tough to think of it. I was thinking that Kid Flash, but that's the opposite as well. He eventually became Flash. So,
well, how about in recent times, Thor got downgraded, and Jane Foster became the new Thor. And then I don't know, because I don't read moderns, what was the relationship there? Did he act in a sidekick sort of assistance capacity to Jane Foster? As
I recall, it was just to make Marvel money. But go on.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm asking it because I know he still had powers. He wasn't stripped of all his powers in the comics.
No,
she was granted, the powers above him. She got a bunch of, but he still had powers. I mean, he just didn't have the hammer or some of the same godly powers he had before. But I mean, he wasn't just like a weakling. So, but I don't know what was the relationship between those two in modern comics.
I don't know either. But that would be a good one.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. But
I guess in some cases, if you go to Batman Beyond, doesn't Batman at that point become more the sidekick or the guy in the chair, at least?
Well, because he was very old. I mean, that's so you're right.
That counts, right? I mean,
he was kind of like more in the. I wouldn't say a sidekick though. He was more like in the mentor role, more like the support role than sidekick. I don't think did he go out on missions with him? I thought he was like in his 80s or something when that occurred.
Yeah, I think he's just the guy in the chair, he's kind of the Oracle. But then also you've got similarly, you got Ant-Man, right? Because Hank Pym, he can't do it anymore. And you have Scott Lang as Ant-Man, and then Hank Pym, I guess, is more the guy in the chair.
In the chair, yeah. Yeah, those are kind of like the legacy continues in another person, but they're still involved with them. I wouldn't put that as a sidekick. Like you said, man in the chair or mentor, which is a little bit very different.
What about somebody like Sabretooth, who was sort of on his own and was sort of downgraded to maybe like a lower sidekick level of Magneto? Does that count?
I think you fall into murky categories when we're talking about villains.
Yeah.
It gets less clear because it always seems that a villain will join any team and take anything that they have to do to make a profit for themselves or do something for themselves. So, like, rarely do you ever see teams form unless, like, for instance, with who's Spider-Man 6 bad guys? What are they called?
Sinister Six.
Sinister Six. So, for instance, Sinister Six are brought together from their combined and individual hatred of Spider-Man. So they work together to go after Spider-Man, but there's not really that much of a, I think if Sabretooth wanted to just walk off and leave the evil mutants, I don't think they're going to send a search party after him to bring him back because he has to be there. He's not like under contract with the evil mutants,
But the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and the Sinister Six are more on equal footing with each other. They're more of a team partnership, whereas the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, there's a clear leader and then those who serve under him. At their pleasure, but slight differences in the dynamics there. And I guess if you have multiples under you, they're not really all sidekicks. It's just a team and there's a leader. So,
yeah. That's what I was going to say exactly. Yeah.
I was wondering about this one myself. Would Jubilee consider a Wolverine sidekick? I don't. I think those are tough because that kind of falls, I think, more into the mentor relationship.
Yep, exactly. Mm-hmm.
You think so too?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she was really kind of more of a mascot kind of thing, and then she was, you could say that she was in the X-Men sphere of influence, and Wolverine was there as well, but it was never. They didn't really go out on a whole lot of missions together, maybe here and there, but it wasn't like a set relationship. It was sort of like if the situation, and sometimes she would tag along and he didn't want him,
Yeah, she'd hide in the back of that weird car he had.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say that's more of a mentor infatuation kind of thing rather than a sidekick. Yeah.
Which is more or less what we're dealing with here on the No Faces chat. We've got Metarog and DS Comics and sort of a mentor infatuation with the host here.
Why don't we stick around all these years?
I remember reading and this is my impression thinking back to when I read I think it was a limited series. I think it actually had maybe like 8 issues though, and it was Wolverine and Kitty Pryde. I always felt like Kitty Pryde was his sidekick in that story in that series.
Yeah, I'd agree. In that series, I'd agree. Yes.
Yeah. But otherwise, like X-Men generally, they were just equal team members, and they're, she has a lot. She's pretty powerful, really.
Yeah, she started.
Yeah, in that miniseries, she seems like a sidekick to Wolverine for that miniseries.
Yeah, she was really a trainee for a long time, and then, like you said, she graduated and went to Excalibur, and she was very powerful. Once she figured out how to use her power, she could, essentially you couldn't touch her, and could travel anywhere. So, again, in that series, I agree. But again, that's what we're going back here, is that there are certain plots and certain storylines where there is a sidekick relationship, and then it either evaporates or it sort of fades away. And that's, I think, what occurred there as well.
Yeah, that was a cool team up, though. I don't know why they didn't do more like team ups like that. I mean, I guess they sort of did. I don't know. I feel like grabbing any 2 X-Men and doing series with just those 2 together is really cool. And I don't think there's that many of them, honestly. There's a few. I mean, mostly it happens within the X-Men story arcs where the teams will break up and 2 will go one way, or there'll be entire story arcs costing multiple issues with 2 or 3 of the X-Men as the main storyline. Or they'll break up and go different areas to work on something. But as far as a single series, I don't think it happened all that much.
No, not that much.
No.
A couple here. Grusky's asking Iron Man and War Machine. Now that's interesting relationship there.
I think War Machine was his support network, graduated into a hero of his own, because he went on missions without Iron Man quite a lot.
I think it's similar to Falcon.
I agree. It's more like the Falcon, kind of an uneven partnership. Can we call it that?
Yeah. It was right. He grew. He first started as a pilot.
Roger, you've been asked to stop pointing at crotches. Don't make me go up and find the comment.
Okay, he first started as a support staff, as a pilot, as a friend. And then when Tony Stark started to have his alcoholism issues, he became Iron Man for a while. And then when he got better, then the partnership started with the War Machine, and then that graduated into him being essentially a solo. So yeah, I think maybe for a very brief period you could say sidekick, because he was getting to learn the armor. But then no, that was a very, very brief period, and then into his own peer relationship there.
I thought about this one too. Foggy Nelson. I think he was support staff, because again, I don't think that they didn't really go into the fray together.
Foggy didn't know that Matt Murdock was Daredevil for the longest time. So I mean, maybe you can say he was a sidekick of his law in their law partnership, but as a hero now.
Here, Bad Dad must have hit his head on his garage roof, because he said Hulk and Bruce Banner. I don't think that's even close.
No.
Yeah.
They never really.
They didn't even like each other.
Well, they didn't really operate contemporaneously per se.
Very brief periods, but yeah. No.
Yeah, usually one or the other, until more recent times when both existed together. I mean, sometimes you'd have thoughts of Banner while he was Hulk. There'd be an internal dispute.
Yeah, a little monologue going on.
Typically, one or the other was who was the Hulk basically going on.
Wong and Doctor Strange, I think that's very different than a sidekick, because he was always in the Sanctum Sanctorum. He never went on missions with him, I don't believe. So to me, that's a servant-master relationship, not a sidekick. I don't know if you guys agree.
I say Jambo Comics here.
I think Tracy and the Kid is a good one. I think the Kid is definitely a sidekick, because although Tracy tried to keep him out of things, the Kid always was mischievously inserting himself in, and did often, offer assistance and help actively to Dick Tracy, even though Dick Tracy didn't want him to.
Yeah, he surveilled, he set up criminals. Yep, definitely. He was a sidekick.
I don't remember this one. Punisher had a tech guy? I don't remember that.
I don't know.
Microchip, maybe?
Maybe so. Patton. Wimpy and Popeye. No, you guys are just kidding.
No.
These guys, Spick and Span is going to be the next one.
Spick and Span. Okay. I do have one question here. See, let me know if you guys think this is a sidekick relationship here.
Submariner and his fish?
Namorita. Okay.
Yeah.
Namor and Namorita.
I thought it was just Namora. I didn't know that was a team.
No. That's his cousin. Namora was his love interest at some point.
Oh, okay.
It's his cousin, Namorita. So I think it is. I'll tell you why. Because she started out not really being an adventurer or anything like that, and then she saw what Submariner, the issues he was getting into, and wanted to help him. And so for a while they acted together, and she would take his, not orders, but his lead.
Okay.
So
That's a pretty cool comic either way. I like it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really know anything about Namorita, but it sounds like she was a sidekick. More than, the existence of Namora makes me think Namorita was a sidekick, because Namora wasn't. So,
what about animals? What about Trigger? Is Trigger a sidekick?
No, maybe Crypto, but I wouldn't put Trigger. But he did help out. He was a very intelligent horse, and he would do things sometimes to get the Lone Ranger out of, to get out of trouble.
I mean, there were times when Trigger acted on his own to rescue the Lone Ranger.
Yep.
Witnessed danger and acted on his own.
Yeah, I think the Spirit had a monkey that was definitely a sidekick.
Who?
Didn't the Spirit have a monkey?
The Spirit?
Who was it that had a monkey in the Golden Age?
Was it the Magician?
No, I can't
remember. No, he had a rabbit.
Oh, Arthur and the Tick. That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, but that's not the kind of animals we're talking about.
Snake Eyes and Timber.
Hey, Trigger had his own comic, Area 51 wants to remind us.
He did. Yeah.
Yeah. No, not the Spider-Mobile. Bad Dad's being a bad dad tonight. he's trying to kick us off the field.
Oh man. Trigger was Roy Rogers' horse.
Oh, right. I meant Silver. I'm sorry.
Silver, yeah. Speed
Racer had a monkey. Yep, that's true.
That's true. What was his name?
Well, didn't Falcon had a falcon, didn't he?
Red Wing.
Yeah. What about Red Wing?
But now we're getting into a slippery slope here, because the animals sort of take direction from the master, but they don't do a lot of independent thinking. So, maybe you can say Crypto because he was, levels intelligent above a regular dog. Or
are you trying to equate a dog's intelligence with a falcon's intelligence?
Well, not a dog. Remember, this was a super dog. He was a much more intelligent dog than a regular dog. Red Wing was a very high level falcon, but was not a superhero, supernaturally enhanced like Crypto. Yeah, we're making ridiculous kind of.
I love it. That's all good stuff. So you're saying Crypto, yes, Falcon, no.
No, I'm not saying Crypto, yes. I'm saying if there is such a thing, Crypto, I think, would be one, but Red Wing, I would say no.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No, here's what I was thinking of, Midnight. Midnight had a monkey sidekick in Smash Comics.
Oh, boy. Wow.
Oh, there you go. Oh, wow.
And you see, I guess Midnight, that's why I was thinking Spirit. They look similar.
Yeah, they do. They look exactly similar. Is that?
Yeah, I don't know the name. I just know from like art. But yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and I hate to be this way, pulling it out of comics, but I was just thinking about Knight Rider and Kit.
Oh, that's the Spider-Mobile thing again. Although it was intelligent. I mean, it was like artificial intelligence.
Right. And the Spider-Mobile didn't have any intelligence, did it?
No.
Yeah, but then you got
level.
Tony Stark's AI then also possibly would be the same thing as Kit.
Oh, yeah. What's his name? What's his
Jarvis?
name? Jarvis. Oh, look, Knights of Old is here.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, ask him. He wasn't here for the Toro discussion. We were wondering if Toro had the same powers as the Torch, or if he was like a Bucky always getting in trouble and need to be rescued.
Well, we all know that Knights of Old is a huge Toro fan.
Well, he hates Toro, so he might know why.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get nothing but unskewed data from from Knights of Old on all of Toro's powers. Non-mechanical? Well, Toro was a robot too, wasn't he?
No. Human Torch was the robot. Toro was human.
Toro was human?
Yes.
How did he get his flame going?
He was a mutant.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Lion Cat.
Human Torch was an android, but
Toro. Woodard saying Lion Cat from Saga. Yeah, that's an animal sidekick for sure.
Is he literally lying? Like lying about stuff?
No, he knows when somebody's lying, and he always calls them out on it by saying lying. Whenever they lie, he calls them out. But he's a sidekick for one of the assassins. I can't remember his name now. But yeah, he's always by his side, and yeah, I say Lion Cat's a sidekick.
Well, there you go. I think we've done it. All right. So we'll end on this. What about sidekicks that move into their own roles? So we know that with Batman, whenever he loses one sidekick, he just adopts another kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's
essentially they die or they grow up and they move on. Yes.
Battle Cat. That's He-Man, isn't it?
Yeah, that's He-Man.
Toro needed to be rescued. That's all Knights of Old wants to talk about.
Right. Well, we talked about that as a plot device. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we got Red Hood. Yeah, that's true. I mean, they don't always end up good, do they?
No.
So definitely, and sometimes they even take on the reins of the main hero. Like, didn't Damian at one point, wasn't he actually Batman for a minute? And you had, in Batman 666, he takes over.
Oh, okay.
That might have been more of an Elseworlds, though.
Yeah, I'll tell you, overall, I think sidekicks are not as popular sometimes as they should be. And you have, like, the ultimate sidekick is Robin. And, I always see Tech 38 selling for good money. But I never hear of anybody who likes that book except for Alex Comic Porter. That's it. And so, I think people don't like sidekicks, but then their first appearances and the comics seem to go for a good amount of money. So somebody's buying them. But I never hear anybody really loving on sidekicks that much. So
yeah,
it's a weird dynamic.
I agree. I don't think that there's too many good ones out there either. I think in some cases, we talked a lot about how they're helpful in moving plot along. And I think in some cases they're written into the story just for that. Just to have a reason to move the plot as opposed to a heavily developed character or someone with depth or someone that we're supposed to even enjoy the presence of.
Yeah. No, this is a great topic because it's such a gray area in many regards, and we could probably do like 2-3 shows if we really want to go in deep about what partnership, support, sidekick, or other types of relationships and how that we define them. And the animal thing is another one. Can you consider an animal a sidekick? All that kind of stuff. I love that kind of discussion.
Oh yeah, 10 of the Metal Men. Sort of. Oh, I don't know that one.
Well, yeah, I know what he's talking about. He was never really, but yes and no, because he was part of the team of the Metal Men, but he was never one of those that really had the power set like the others, where he was not as useful, or at least he didn't think he was. Although at the end of the day, he would often win the day. So that's a tough one. That is a tough one. I would say in certain issues he is more of a sidekick, but other times he's just a frontline member.
It's funny. We've talked a lot about these kind of gray areas. There seems to be a lot of it. I don't know. I know it's always difficult whenever we try and take any character and kind of stick them in one role, because by the very nature of the development of stories, they're often shifted from one, reliable role to another in order to, again, move plot, have character development, create tension and drama.
Right.
But overall, when I look at what a character is generally designed to be as a sidekick, they tend to be more or less weak and supportive. And then I guess when that no longer becomes possible, like when you look at Robin, how long under Batman's tutelage would he really have to be until he was finally capable of being something more than a kid in tights getting in trouble all the time? He has to at some point progress beyond that. And then it's such a great character, you got to slide somebody else into that role and have a new Robin, to take his place. I mean, how many Robins have there been? Like 6?
At least 5 that I can think of. Yeah.
Yeah, I think of 4. Yeah, quite a
Well,
few.
and you also have the Dark Knight Returns Robin, which was that girl.
I don't have a problem though with
yeah.
like the time that goes by in our reality while we're reading comics. It's Batman and Robin year after year after year, and Robin doesn't necessarily, for me, have to ever grow up. They can just in perpetuity be Batman and Robin. Doesn't have to follow the same constructs of moving time that we're experiencing in reality. Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't have to grow up just because we're growing up. Like, you can just follow Batman and Robin forever.
Hey.
But they often do just keep them the same forever. And sometimes they do, at some point, like, accelerate their aging and move them on to other things. Like, Wolverine was, he has a healing factor, so you never know how old he was anyway. But then all of a sudden, in modern times, he got old. And now they did Old Man Logan. So sometimes they do that, but I don't really think it's necessary. I never feel the need to have Robin grow up if I'm reading like a Silver Age Batman and Robin or something. I'm never like, oh, this is way before he grew. It could just always be like that for me. I don't feel the necessity for it.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's why I don't like continuity. I think continuity sucks. I hate it for the most part. If there's something important from the last issue, tell me about it in the first page, from the editor. And then after that, leave me alone. And don't tell me that whatever happens in the book I'm about to read has some larger ramification in the entire universe of other superheroes that I could care less about. And the reason is because when something happens in one of their crappy books, I don't ever want some issue of Squirrel Girl to be some key plot point for my Wolverine character. I could care less about Squirrel Girl, and I don't want, because she stuffed too many nuts in her mouth one day, all of a sudden Wolverine loses his powers. I never want that to happen. So, that's anyway.
I'm not a huge fan of continuity for the same reason. I like, long story arcs, like, early 80s X-Men type stuff. I'm fine with long story arcs, and when it ends, it ends. But the problem is with continuity, now you have so many different comic books, millions of comics and story arcs and character developments over different artists and writers and eras that you have to make match up. And I think if you just say, look, there's no continuity, it's not matching up, it's just comics and they're just fun and this story's cool. I don't need all this continuity stuff, but I like short spans of continuity. And by short, I mean, it can be a couple of years long. Like X-Men have really long story arcs in the early 80s. You can have longer story arcs, but after the story's done, I feel like you're back to square one and you can do whatever you want. I don't need the continuity. Yeah, because then if something happens, it has a ripple effect on all comics and you have to keep track of it. And, it's hard for artists and writers to keep track of that too. And then it pisses off fans when you change something that's ingrained in the history of a character and then there's continuity, so you can't change the character at all either. It's a lot of complex layers of problems with continuity. It is what it is. They try to make it too real sometimes, and for me, I just like them just to be fun. I like to be able to pick up a book, and it's just like a story. And I don't have to go read a bunch of other stuff for it to make sense. I just need a general sort of knowledge of the characters, and then the story makes sense.
Right, but when they start weaving in all these sidekicks and having their ages change and their plot lines change, then it's hard not to carry that forward somehow. It creates, vacuums and holes where people are used to that relationship, and now there's not someone there. If you kill a Robin, you're going to have to come up with a new Robin or pretend that they didn't die, and it's hard to have major events in continuity and not lose some of these sidekicks. I mean, somebody put earlier in the chat, that sidekicks always get shot. So I think Area 51 said that. So it's like sidekicks always get shot. So I think a lot of times they use the sidekick as a major plot. Oh my gosh, didn't they do a whole thing about killing off Robin, like a contest? So whether they should kill Robin or not?
Yeah, that was Death in the Family.
Yeah, and Death in the Family. So it's like, come on. If you're going to go through that whole routine, you can't just bring him back 5 minutes later.
Yeah, this is a good topic for us to take another time because I have some counterpoints, but it would take a long time for me to, it may be a good format would be like a trial format because this is something that we could talk about the pros and cons of continuity. I happen to think that continuity is a good thing, but I'm not going to get into a long-winded thing now. But
yeah, all right, Roger's shutting down the stream. Good night, everyone.
I like what Collecting Chaos said. That's sort of how I am. He loved the Silver Age DC because they were generally one-shot stories or most 2 or 3 issues. Yeah, that's cool.
Yep.
I pick up a lot of books, not a lot of books, but I pick up books that I just am flipping or they come in a small collection or something. And sometimes I'll just pull one out and I just open it up. And the newer it is, the harder it is to follow because there's all this other stuff going on and other stories and titles that's interwoven, and I'm not going to go buy that. I just happen to have this one issue. But early bronze and silver stuff, you can just pick it up and it's a cool read from beginning to end. You don't really have to know anything except basically who the characters are. I like that. I don't like having to work to understand storylines in comics. And in the 90s, and I think they've done it recently too, like 2010-ish, they did these tons of crossover stuff, and you get lost in these storylines if you don't pick it up.
I do.
And I know it's designed to sell books because you have to go buy all this other stuff. But I remember in the 90s, it was a little annoying when they were doing the Phalanx Constant, and they did Executioner's Song, and they had the one with in the Thor that crossed over in the Thor comics a lot.
I mean, let's be honest. It's the over replication of characters within their own universe that causes the real continuity problems. When you have 4 or 5 Batman universe titles going on at the same time,
yeah,
that's too much. Batman's in 6 places at once. The Joker has his own storyline going on. Harley Quinn has her own storyline going on. Batwoman, Batgirl, Catwoman, all these people have their own comics and all things going on at the same time. Batman has 2 of his own in Tech and Batman. It's like, come on. And then not to mention the Elseworlds and Black Label stuff. And
I think sometimes these publishers just wanted to try something different and fun, and they came up with an alternate Earth or an alternate reality or an alternate universe or something. It was just supposed to be a fun thing. It wasn't supposed to be take it and run with it for the next 2 decades. You know what I mean? Yeah. But they've developed entire other worlds based on these sort of just interesting little alternate universe and alternate reality type things. The classic example is Bizarro, but that's something that's interwoven in the history of Superman. But there's characters in other worlds are whole other now areas of comics that have stories and characters, and it's interwoven, and it gets very complicated. And it might just be because I'm old and I don't keep up with new stuff very often anyway. But I don't know. I just like a short, fun read. Just pick it up and you open the book, and it's a Spider-Man book or Thor book, and you can just read it, and it's a cool adventure. And at the end, the adventure's over, and maybe there's a cliffhanger or a teaser or something. or, you know, a little minor cameo like in Hulk 180, you know, something like that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I like it better that way. And if you wanted to tie them in, then all you have to do is at the beginning, the editor can say something real quick. Hey, if you recall back in issue blah, 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 Robin died. And so Batman's on the hunt for a new Robin. If you have to set the table, set the table.
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
You shouldn't have to say, we hope you've been reading along for the last 7 titles across 5 universes because this is going to tie in. Better read this too. That's too much.
Yeah, and actually what I like better is just go along, and if it messes up some type of continuity issue, just retroactively fix it with like an origin story or something. They used to just do that. They would have stuff happen, and they would just then, oh yeah, so let's break and explain why this is seeming weird. Way back in the day, this happened. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just retroactively give you an origin story or something, explanation of it. I don't know, just different types of storytelling. You know, I really like Paper Girls. That was 36 issues or something, and it was a fully contained story arc with characters that didn't come from anywhere else. And it was super cool, and it lasted 36 issues, and it's a really good storyline. And when it's over, it's over. And before there was nothing, and after there was nothing, it's just an independent story. And I think I see more of those these days than there used to be as well. So I don't know. Things change over time. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, Roger's mad at me.
No. Heck no. Oh boy. I think Liz is at the door.
Oh, what?
The rabbit.
Whoa.
Oh,
Jessica.
my goodness.
Wow.
I don't think that is. Uh-oh. All right. I'm worried now. Wait a minute. Oh, my gosh. Wait. No. What is going on here? Oh, my gosh.
This has really gone downhill quickly.
Oh, wait. No. Dang it. Wrong. We're getting closer. We're in red dress territory here. It's. Oh, goodness gracious. Finally. This girl's been all the way down your block, Roger, trying to find your door. She's been confused, just bewildered. All right, Liz is here. All right, Roger's got to go. He's got to go pet the poodle or whatever he calls it.
Yeah, gotta park the pup. Yep.
Park the pup. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Listen. We've had fun. I want to thank my sidekicks, DS Comics and Metarog, for joining me this evening. No, if ever there was a super team, I'd be happy to just be the guy in the chair. Really, that'd be fine with me. I'll stay safe in my office, and you guys can go, take all the risk, and I'll also handle the bank account. So it's good to have you guys, though. Thank you.
Sounds good. Yeah, great to be here, man. Great to be here. Love this topic. Great topic. Had a great time.
Yeah, it was a good one. Thank you.
Decent topics.
Yeah.
Decent. Listen.
Yeah, decent topics.
You're the topic picker, and most of them are top notch. That's true.
I'll tell you, it is tough though, Roger. We don't give him enough credit because every single week in and week out, month after month, year after year, he has to come up with a new topic, and I don't think he's yet repeated a topic.
Now, Roger has said that I've repeated maybe twice. He's always quick to jump on me over it.
There's been a few, but
now we're up to 3. Thanks, Raj.
but hold on. But let me qualify that. But because we have different guests and different, even though the topic may be similar, we come about it in a different way. In other words, there's different aspects of that topic that we have explored. So in a sense, they're all different. There's maybe the similar topic, but we explore them differently. And that is really the main gist of what we do here, right? We talk about comics in some kind of way that is new and fresh and different from a lot of shows. And that's what I really like about every Monday night being with you guys, because this is just a lot of fun to be here and talk about comics.
Yeah, I agree. I've had a big time tonight. Always looking forward to it. DS is throwing up his broken arrow. Was it Straight Arrow or Broken
Straight
Arrow?
Arrow.
Straight Arrow. Well, you know, I usually have like 5 books, and I just didn't get through this one. I just want to show it. One of the more
You were
brutal.
too busy. You were too busy tonight, DS, thinking
Yeah.
and arguing and just having a big old time. So
This is an underrated and very brutal cover.
Yeah. Yep.
see, I thought that was a doll. I didn't realize that was a real kid.
Yeah, I mean, he's about
He's gonna take that kid's head off.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
He's gonna scalp him.
Green Arrow's coming in to save the day. It's a Frank Frazetta cover. Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
What's Straight Arrow's horse's name?
Oh, I don't know.
Alpo.
Alpo.
Is it really?
No, I don't know. I just figured he's going to turn into dog food at some point.
I don't know. This is a pure Frazetta cover by. That's it.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. What do you got going on your Dem Dare channel there, Roger?
Well, I received a package from a community member, and I will be talking about that tomorrow.
So ominous.
And yes, and it completed a set that I have been after for many years. So, so definitely something. It's going to be a short video, just just showing some comics and talking about the set. But I will have that out tomorrow, and then of course Thursday the roundup. Yeah,
I like it. Good job. I'm looking forward to that. And what do you got? I can't wait to see what it was. What do you got going on your channel there, DS?
Well, I did a video earlier. I wouldn't call it a rant, but an interesting video about you can go watch it. It's about an hour long. I think it's pretty interesting about counterfeit books, CGC grading counterfeit books. And there seems to be some misunderstanding or some strong feelings about it, and I wasn't hearing my perspective on the one Instagram story that was going around, so I threw my 2 cents in the ring today earlier. And interesting topic and video, so go check that out whenever it finishes uploading, I guess.
Nice.
cool.
I really every time I try and put my 2 cents in on a topic, I always get changed back. So I hate to.
Yeah, that Cerebus 1 counterfeit was pretty controversial from what I recall.
Yeah, well, I discussed that because there was a TMNT1 counterfeit graded by CGC, and of course it says counterfeit on it. It's a 9.4. It's going to Comic Connect auction, and people were like, "That's blasphemy! CGC is ruining the hobby. Why are they now grading counterfeit books? Anybody's just going to send in photocopies now, and there's going to be this glut of fake stuff being slabbed." Well, these things, it's a very rare exception. And Cerebus is the biggest example of it, which I talked about in that video, where they have a history of being high quality, even better than the originals, and they have sort of a notorious historical significance in comics, and therefore people actually seek them out, and they have value. It's sort of like a Banksy phenomenon, if you know that artist from the UK. Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot of people don't know that there's, counterfeits have been graded for a while. It's not a new thing, and you can't just photocopy an AF-15 and send it in. They're not going to slap that. So a little bit of lack of knowledge about it out there, and I knew a little bit, so I tried to throw a perspective and knowledge out there on it. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Bub was in the chat, and other people in there. It seemed to be a pretty engaging discussion.
It was pretty good. I said what I thought, in each of the instances, and then Comic Mag Musings gave his paltry excuses for the contrary, which were just so sorry and weak and pathetic. But we thank him for his contributions to our show each and every Monday night. Without the soft skulls and deep pockets of people like Comic Mag Musings, this show cannot go on. So we thank you all, and mostly everyone. So,
that's true. We have very, very devoted viewers.
Yes, we do. We really do.
Yeah,
it's great to have you all. I know there's a lot of shows going on tonight, and you have your pico de litter, but we're glad to have you guys here each and every week on the No Faces Comic Chat. On my channel, I've got a few more books to show off and a couple more things to do. So business as usual on BUB'S Comics. So the DS wants to tell you a very, very, very important PSA. Go ahead, DS.
Oh yeah, everybody, make sure you do your own homework and do your research.
Exactly. And Roger wants to tell us something straight from the heart.
Yeah, I want everybody to be blessed and be a blessing, but be back.
Yes, there was an extra blessing in there, and I'll never shun those away. And I'm just gonna tell everybody I didn't show a single comic tonight. I don't know. I'll just remind everybody to read a comic and don't apologize for the glare. We'll catch you next week on the No Faces Comic Shack. Thank you, and bye-bye.